Hello. What I'll be doing is taking stories that should be common knowledge and bringing them back to light. Things that could have been in the news at one point or maybe never even covered in a public sense. This one is about Stanley Meyer and his water-powered car. Without further ado, let's get started. It's the 21st of March, 1998, the first day of spring, and four men are having lunch in a restaurant. A waiter serves one of them some cranberry juice, perhaps. We're never gonna know for sure. And right after taking his first sip, one of the men stands up with his hands around his neck, as if he's gasping for air, and runs out into the parking lot, collapses to the ground, and pronounces his last words, "They poisoned me." Thus was the end for Stanley Meyer, a name that had he lived and been able to mass produce his invention, he could have been synonymous with Henry Ford. Because this is a man who claimed to have created a water-powered car. Now, this is back in 1975, and Meyer, at this time, has spent his entire life patenting all kinds of technical solutions, like banking sectors to heart monitoring, and he decided he wanted to explore the automotive world. And in that year, the effects of the Middle East oil embargo, which had led to a crisis in the United States, were still considerable, with a significant drop in car sales. Now, Meyer thought the best way to get out of the oil dependency was through water propulsion. He created a fuel cell based on the principle of splitting water atoms into its elemental form, burning hydrogen to create energy and release oxygen, along with water residues through the exhaust pipe, thus generating harmless emissions. And after a few months, he managed to develop his water-powered engine, mounting it onto a dune buggy painted with the conspicuous writing, "Water-Powered Car." He claimed this vehicle was able to travel over 180 kilometers with just 4 liters of water and nothing else. 45 kilometers with just a liter of something that costs hardly anything must have sounded truly magical, and that's exactly when his trouble started. Now, when you look back, there is a film of this moving car and various photos of the car surrounded by admiring people, but many argue that no one had ever really verified the actual operation of the engine, whether it was actually powered purely by water, and whether the patent or the project worked at all. Analyzing the case, there have been rivers of words and ink spent over the years both to support and refute Meyer's thesis, and especially the veracity of what he claims. Even an American judicial authority in 1996, 2 years before his mysterious death, had looked into his invention, petitioned by several small investors who had financed the development of his project, who later became suspicious and worried that it was doomed to bankruptcy. Now, the Fayette County judge in Ohio had appointed 3 surveyors to whom Meyer refused to submit the car, and who concluded by noting that the chemical and technological process invented by Meyer would not be at all revolutionary, even going so far as to call it trivial, and that no evidence was provided that it could actually effectively power an automotive engine. The judge then issued his verdict, in which he decreed that the funds received by Meyer had been stolen by deception, and he was sentenced to return it to investors. For a man whose livelihood depended on his ingenuity, this is not a small financial pill to swallow. Certainly, this is a very sad epilogue for someone who had proclaimed themselves to be the savior of the complex equation between efficient automotive propulsion, respect for the environment, and affordable power. Stanley had previously stated that he had been threatened many times by representatives from oil companies around the world. That being said, he also included tales of car chases with armed guards. He claimed that he had been offered the hyperbolic sum of $1 million, some even say $1 billion, to kill all evidence of his technology, and that he had refused. There's a scientist who tried to get in touch with Meyer to learn more about his project and declared that Stanley had a paranoid attitude, and that he had flatly refused to subject the dune buggy to a test in order to verify its performance, even if they promised not to open the black box containing the electronic components that powered the system. Stephen Meyer, Stanley's brother, claimed that 1 week after Stanley's death, unidentified people had stolen the dune buggy from Stanley's garage, along with all of the inventor's instruments, and that the vehicle had subsequently been found, but it is unclear under what circumstances and condition. The patent had been registered, and the dune buggy was later closed off in a room without doors so that no one could steal it and destroy it, but according to Meyer's detractors, so that no one could examine it and discover the weakness of the patent. It seems that in 2014, and therefore some 16 years after the death of Stanley, the vehicle turned up in Canada, perhaps sold by his brother Stephen, now under ownership of the Holbrook family, claimed to be associates of Stanley. But nothing is known of it after that date. Knowing all of that, this may not be the end of Stanley Meyer and his water-powered car's story. His brother claimed that during a meeting with 2 Belgian investors in a restaurant, i.e. a Cracker Barrel, Meyer suddenly ran outside, saying they poisoned me. And after an investigation, the Grove City police went with the Franklin County coroner report that ruled that Meyer, who had high blood pressure, died of a cerebral aneurysm. Some of his supporters believed that he was assassinated to suppress his inventions. One of the Belgian investors stated that he had been supporting Meyer financially for several years and considered him a personal friend, and that he has no clue where these rumors come from. These days, Meyer's patents have expired. His inventions are now in the public domain, available for anyone to use without restriction or royalty payment. So if it does work, only time will tell to see if someone actually wants to recreate Stanley Meyer's car. That's all I have for you for now, but please keep an eye out because I'll be bringing you plenty more stories from the dark.